A lot of people in our category do a lot of research. It's a little overwhelming to figure out what is right for your dog when you're searching. We're optimizing content on our blog, and we're developing new landing pages on our site to serve as the answer to the questions that people have when they're deciding between fresh food brands, if they're deciding between healthy kibble and upgrading into the category. So we have content that really speaks to all the different scenarios that people might be searching. Maybe their dog's overweight. We have a pretty strong SEO strategy in terms of what do we think are all the triggers that people might be searching and coming into category to find a new dog food. And we're going to try to meet them in that moment with strong content.
Nicole, welcome to the DTC Podcast. Can you start by giving us a bit of an overview of Ollie's growth journey since its founding in 2016?
Yes, of course. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. So like you mentioned, Ollie was founded in 2016 in the early days of the fresh food category growth. So there weren't many competitors in the space. And as I'm sure many people can understand, during the early years of the COVID pandemic, we experienced a pretty dramatic growth in our business around that time. We took advantage of that and have slowly and methodically grown our team to keep up with that growing demand. And we're really lucky that the fresh food category and premium pet products have just continued to grow since then. So we haven't seen any sort of dip or decline since that spurt in growth, and are just continuing on a really nice trajectory now in this next phase of startup business.
I never hear that. I always hear that we had the e-commerce boom, and then it really leveled off kind of after everyone was out of COVID times. But it's like yours triggered a trend that just kind of keeps on going.
Yes, you read the headlines, humanization of your pet and personalization and really just treating pets, specifically dogs, like family members is a growing trend. And so companies like ours that are there to meet that need, I think, are poised really nicely for today and the future.
Nice. Well, you are brand director at Ollie. On this podcast, we talk quite often about growth and performance marketing, and brand, is often a topic we talk about. So you've been there, it looks like, for about 2.5 years, a little under 2.5 years. I'm curious, when in a D2C's growth journey do you need a brand director as soon as you have a growth director? Or when in a D2C's journey do you need a brand director?
That is such a good question. So probably like many other D2C brands, we focused heavily on customer acquisition for the first phase of business. And obviously that's still continues to be a huge focus for us every day. It wasn't until, probably when I joined that really my role filled a gap that they didn't even know that they needed on the team. So I came in and have pretty broad generalist marketing, brand growth experience. I've worked in social media a lot in my past, specifically on the growth side, crafting paid social ads, trying to fuse brand and best practices in the paid social space, as well as go-to-market experience and some other, I'd say, like broad e-com skills. So when I came on, I think the team didn't even realize that there was a gap between ad growth and retention. And then as I came on and slowly grew the capabilities of the creative and brand team, it's just created a really nice, there's no silos. We work really closely across all teams. It's really one marketing team. And it's been a great addition, I'd say, from just focusing purely on the growth aspect and then plugging in the creative team as needed to fill gaps when they need assets without having a leader on that team to help bridge the gap.
Very cool. I will get into that more, but I'm curious, when you came on to Ollie, that you kind of in this position you kind of created this position out of the ether. What was your first prerogative? Like what did your first 90 days look like in terms of what kind of changes you were looking to make?
Yeah. So I mean, I do this, I think anytime I've started a new job, I really want to not just jump right in and make a lot of decisions and recommendations right away. So like, I think most people coming in, you want to get the lay of the land, understand how the different teams are operating. And so I took a lot of time to really understand how our growth team was set up and how their channel strategy worked and what type of creative needs do they have? What's working? What's not working? How are they getting content? And found that there was a bit of a disconnect between a lot of teams needed more volume than they felt like our internal team could produce. So they were kind of making things on their own, or
Ad
they
hoc,
were
for
like,
sure.
yeah, like ad hoc, like kind of piecing together what they thought just based on the assets that they had access to. So one of the first things that I came in and wanted to work on is just clearing the lines of communication and developing a new briefing process. So making it really clear that the creative team's here to support the growth team. So don't be afraid to ask for something, even if you think it's too much or is a burden to the team. We'll figure out how to resource that, whether it's our internal team or freelance support, or eventually I made the case to grow my internal team to support the needs across marketing, because we do produce a lot of assets for both our retention team and our growth team on a weekly basis. So yeah, really just breaking down the communication and making sure that our team was made aware of what is the true need from a channel perspective so that we could figure out how to build a process to quickly provide the right assets for the team.
Quickly and iteratively, I guess, too,
Yes,
right? Because you
totally.
still need to keep that. But just so I understand, all creative then comes out of brand.
And we have outside partners now.
Okay.
With a level of, specifically for paid social, the level of creative that we need doesn't make sense to all be produced internally. So we do partner with some external creatives to develop that on a weekly basis.
A litmus test question I have for you is, if an ad that said buy myollie.com or whatever on a sticky note on someone's monitor and someone took a photo of it, would you run that as an ad if it worked?
We're actually testing some sticky notes creative, so we're not afraid.
Not afraid to get scrappy. I think that's great. And so on one, that's that, and I think that's that false dichotomy between brand and performance, which we talked about in the pre-interview, and almost every guest echoes it. It doesn't really exist anymore. Is that you have to find something that kind of works for both. But on the other end of the spectrum, what other perspectives you brought to the brand initiatives for Ollie?
What you just said, I think, is important, but there's the element of the starting point for the creative should come from the brand.
Yes.
And should come from, what do you think your true value is and your points of differentiation? And where do you think you shine in terms of messaging within your category, whether it's quality or variety? For us, Ollie has a great track record with picky eaters among dogs. So kind of picking what are those themes and then leaning into the channels to drive, what trends do we want to test? What formats do we want to test? So that I think that's the right blend, so that brand has an influence over what we're saying, but we're doing it in a way that provides, the list, like analytics within the channels to really lead how you communicate that message.
But you're thinking of brand like a marketer, which is in terms of avatars and angles. Right. So there's that cohesive follow through both.
There is. There's still like the highest level of. So one big thing that I got to work on since joining was a new brand positioning. So we had a brand positioning and a brand story, but our business had evolved a lot over the last few years since that had come to be. So we worked with an external research agency to field new research among both qual and quant among Ollie members and non-members to understand what is sticky about our brand and why people chose us over other brands that are with us today. And then more broadly, what are some factors that are driving decision-making in the category. And we came up with a new positioning around Ollie. Like, people really care about finding the right food for their dog, and Ollie can serve that need uniquely in a number of ways. So that positioning and some of the proof points below that is what drives the messaging that I just spoke to.
And this is an extension of personalization, where people are realizing that some people don't like gluten. Some people, that people are developing all these understanding that food can really impact the way you feel. And that's kind of extending to pets as well.
Yeah, totally. So everything from the actual ingredients that we use to the cooking technique to the optionality. So, our brand compared to some others, we have 5 fresh recipes and 2 baked recipes and treats and supplements. So there's a lot of mixing and matching that can come into play. So, some people are worried about their dogs losing interest in food. That's actually pretty common. And so with Ollie, it's less of a risk, because if they don't like the chicken recipe, you can try the pork recipe or the baked beef. There's a lot more options to mix and match.
I will say my dog's enjoyment of his food is how much, he doesn't like the kibble, but he will eat the soft stuff. And you want to see them love it. So I think that's what people are investing in, right? That's why they're willing to pay the premium in a way.
I mean, absolutely. That has come up in a lot of research that we've done as well. The act of enjoyment at mealtime, it's not just, is the food high quality? That's not really good enough. It's does your dog actually exhibit joy with the act of eating? Because it's such an important part of their day. I mean, I
think that's why we have dogs, just so we can easily access joy. We can just be like, oh, look at the pure bliss as he runs in the park. Would you look at that?
I know. It really is beautiful when you can see their positive reaction.
So explain to me what falls under brand's purview at Ollie.
Yeah. So at Ollie, I mentioned our creative team. So we do our own production multiple times a year for photo and video shoots.
Does that include content, written content?
Yes, written content too.
Okay, cool.
So we have writers, designers, a producer. Then we have a social team, so a social lead, and we have some freelance support with community management and everything that goes into developing strategy and content for our organic channels. SEO and the blog is under me as well. And then PR, events, activations, partnerships is another element of that.
And you guys are a full omni-channel brand, so you're always incorporating and managing different channels and the brand on each.
Yes. So that I didn't reference that, but we do sell in Petco nationwide. So retail marketing and how we show up in Petco, the physical location, as well as their digital channels, is also an aspect of the work that my team does.
And then just as well as every digital channel within there that you're probably adding. And you mentioned TV as well.
Yes, TV. Yep. So we develop TV creative. So yes, those are the channels that I mentioned. The programs are the ones that I manage directly, but then work really closely with other teams to develop. Like I said, the paid creative, TV creative is really briefed and managed by our team as well.
Can you describe the efforts that you've kind of put in place to help Ollie maintain its premium brand image?
That's a good question. It's everything from location scouting, talent, set design, propping, food style, of having really good a food stylist on hand to make the product and the props and we always use our fresh ingredients that we use in our recipes on set in conjunction with the food in the dog's bowl. So really bringing to life both the quality of the product itself and an aspirational lifestyle of the dog parent and what their home and their family looks like.
Super cool. So I think one of the other interesting things that we talk about on this podcast often are partnerships and collaborations. I think more and more brands are thinking about ways they can kind of grow together with collaborative brands. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about partnerships?
We've been dipping our toe in partnerships for a couple of years now, and we've done everything from a marketing swaps with brands that make sense around different moments in time. So other pet brands like Wild one we've partnered with in the past to do a gift with purchase for our members to try to draft off of their brand awareness and affinity to drive higher than average customer acquisition during that time period. And more recently, though, we've been really interested in not really going beyond like that traditional kind of digital marketing swap and building out a more integrated physical partnership, if you will, that has multiple elements to it. And this summer, we did our biggest partnership with Van Leeuwen Ice Cream. They're based out of Brooklyn, and they're really aligned with us in the sense that they use high quality, real ingredients for their product, no artificial fillers or negative aspects like that. They really care about the quality and the taste of their product. They've never made a dog ice cream. Ollie has never made a frozen treat. So we came together to produce a dog-friendly ice cream that we sold in pints to our DTC members in Petco and at Van Leeuwen scoop shops nationwide. They have 60 scoop shops. So between their distribution, their brand awareness, and our category expertise and really like brand synergies around quality and sourcing of ingredients and how the philosophy we have around developing products, it was, I think, a really good example of what a collab could do for two brands.
I see it, being beneficial that they've got that distribution arm as well, just because you all of a sudden having to distribute a frozen product could be a world of hurt if you weren't set up for it already.
Yeah.
Kind
and
of thing.
What was nice for us when it comes to we had to do a lot of internal testing because our fresh food kind of thaws at a different rate than ice cream thaws at. So even though we ship a frozen product with dry ice, it's different than shipping ice cream. So there were a lot of learnings from a fulfillment standpoint that went into that. But the ability for us, since we already do distribute frozen food, that was a challenge, but less of a hurdle than another brand who doesn't have that at all in their operations.
So how do you judge the success of a partnership like the Van Leeuwen one?
Yeah, we looked at a number of different factors. The goals going into it, we wanted to drive a lot of brand awareness through PR. We worked with our PR agency and their internal PR team. And also, since we had Petco, there was like a lot of coordination between the three brands, essentially, to really bring the launch from a PR standpoint. So we set a goal for amount of coverage and target media. Like I said, I manage organic traffic and growth of that channel and what does organic conversion look like. So we were monitoring organic traffic and direct traffic and social traffic and seeing what kind of lift we got around the time period of the product launch in that aspect. Social was a big part of it as well. So we developed a lot of custom social content, both with our internal team, with the Van Leeuwen team. We did some collab posts. We seeded the product to our ambassadors and Van Leeuwen's ambassadors and got a lot of great UGC content from that. So we had a really robust organic social run of show, and we're tracking engagement rate and video views and all of that content to make sure that it was meeting our goals and, we weren't losing interest over time from that content. So we weren't really overdoing it. So those were the main metrics that we were tracking, but we were really tracking conversion and sales. So we sell extras already. We sell jerky and supplements. And so we came up with a goal of what we were hoping the sell-through would be for both existing Ollie members and new members who are joining Ollie, signing up for a subscription and purchasing an item of the Van Leeuwen ice cream at that purchase moment. So we tracked that regularly. We were looking at, how many units are we selling? What's the take rate? And is there anything we can do from a messaging perspective, whether that's merchandising on the site or the app or an SMS or an email opportunity to further drive that?
You were talking, when you're talking about your shift in positioning to be about, what a dog wants essentially.
Yeah.
It just made me think about the content that falls out from that. And then you're talking about SEO and describe how SEO fits in the overall growth or revenue strategy.
Yeah. So we, when it comes to non-branded search, we're looking at what are those terms in the category that people are using when they're further down the funnel and they're looking to research and, decide between a lot of people in our category do a lot of research, as you can imagine, and are reading about all of the different competitors. And there's a huge landscape of like review related content that you see out there, as well as internal owned content that goes into the mix. So there's a lot available when it comes to it's a little overwhelming probably to figure out like what is right for your dog when you're searching. So we're looking into those terms that see a lot of queries, and we're optimizing content on our blog, and we're developing new landing pages on our site to serve as the answer to the questions that people have when they're deciding between fresh food brands, if they're deciding between like a healthy kibble and upgrading into the category. A lot of people come from home cooking. So there's a lot of people who know, they see the value in giving their dogs unprocessed whole foods, but that can be really time intensive and expensive in its own right. So we have content that really speaks to all the different scenarios that people might be searching. Maybe their dog's overweight and they're looking for a meal plan to help get them on the right track. So we have a pretty strong SEO strategy in terms of what do we think are all the triggers that people might be searching and coming into category to find a new dog food. And we're going to try to meet them in that moment with strong content.
Is it a growing channel for you? Is it a channel that you're aggressively trying to grow? Because I know if you're trying to grow it, you have to really commit to it, right?
Yeah, it is. I hired someone on my team earlier this year to really help with that internally. We also work with an agency to support us in terms of strategy and everything that goes into that, because it was really too much to take on internally with a small team. Like there's programs that we want to prioritize, but it becomes hard to do everything internally. So that's why agencies are great to help with certain aspects like that. But really, we're trying to, in the long run, reduce our dependence on paid advertising. So when you look at the mix of paid traffic to organic traffic, paid conversions to organic conversions, it's obviously in our best interest as a business to continue to grow the health of our organic channels. And SEO is the biggest lever to do that.
Until AI takes over. And then
yeah. I know. We're all working through that.
Is there any interesting way that you guys are using AI on the brand side of the business? Like I imagine when you get that giant survey that you did, having it kind of crunch the data there is probably pretty valuable.
Yeah, there's actually someone on my team who's like, she's kind of been identified as our AI expert, and
you need one or a couple.
Yeah, and is actively exploring like what are the trends in, how to brand and how does brand creative teams use AI. So we're playing around with things from, we are definitely not replacing designers or writers with AI, but how can we make their work easier in terms of, maybe it's coming up with concepts. So putting in, if we have a project coming up, using AI as a partner in brainstorming to speed up certain steps of the process is something that we're playing with.
Any upcoming projects or initiatives at Ollie that you're excited about that you can talk about?
I have one that I can talk about. So Ollie has recently launched a service called Health Screenings, which is a benefit of our memberships. This is another point of differentiation that we're trying to grow and separate ourselves from our competitors. You can use Ollie's app to take a picture of your dog and see, is their poop healthy? Do they have healthy teeth? Are they a healthy weight? And since weight is really the leading indicator of your dog's health in the long run, and our diet can be a great resource to achieving and maintaining a healthy weight, we're leaning into this weight screening. And so it's It's currently offered only to members, but we will be offering a free weight screening on our site for non-members. So if you're just curious if your dog is overweight, underweight, you'll be able to upload a picture and the Ollie Health team will help you understand that.
My dog is cut like a Greek god, and he is 15, and everyone always assumes I mean 15 months, but he is like an absolute gem. But I wanted to ask how, because I bet when you started this, there was not a lot of fresh delivery dog foods operating at the scale you were at. And I bet like meal boxes, it's become a lot more competitive, maybe not as competitive as meal boxes. But how do you view competition in this space? Is there like there is a rising tide, but how do you manage competition from a brand perspective?
I mean, in a good way, we don't necessarily have to sell people on why fresh dog food, because it's becoming more prevalent. And I think generally, maybe a few years ago, if I told people I worked for a fresh dog food company, they would look at you confused and not know what that is. And now with brands like the Farmer's Dog, and there's others who have scaled, Fresh Pet and Just Food for Dogs has a lot of distribution. There's a growing number of large players in the category. So there's just larger awareness for what our category does and what benefits we offer. So now the challenge becomes, how is Ollie different? So why would you choose Ollie over another competitor in the space? And I'd say that's what we're really hyper focused on as a brand, is continuing to create value and differentiation, so that when someone is in that phase where they are, considering purchasing in this category, we want them to think of Ollie.
And then where does brand integrate with customer experience? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest branding experiences you have, is actually how the product is fulfilled and how it works. So how do you work with that team?
It's all really well integrated. So the marketing team, the brand team, essentially, we design the packaging. We think through, how does the welcome brochure that you get, like what is that experience when you unbox, the design of the box itself? So we've updated those things over time and continue to optimize them to make sure that they're really highlighting what's truly special and unique about our brand and what is going to get someone to feel like they're part of something. And this is something that they want to continue with. So they have that really happy moment of when the box arrives for the first time and they open the package and they see not just the product itself, but this great welcome material. And we have this really nice welcome kit that new members receive, where it's a little Tupperware in our brand colors for your dog's food so that you can separate it from your food in your fridge, which is something that sometimes people are kind of grossed out about, the idea of having fresh dog food in their fridge alongside their own leftovers. So just like little touches like that to create a really nice brand experience. And then our customer service team is all in-house, and they are really outstanding at delivering on a really quality experience. Like if anything doesn't go right, we have a really low rate of this, but if anything doesn't go right in delivery or their expectations, we are delivering frozen food, which is, especially in the hot summer months, can be problematic. Yeah. So they do a phenomenal job of really carrying out our brand voice and our brand promise to continue to deliver a great customer experience.
When you're talking about the weight initiative with dogs, it made me think of something that Josh Snow from the Snow Teeth Whitening brand told me many years ago. Yeah. When I asked him if he was starting that brand again, would he do anything differently? And he said he would create an insurance. He would create dental insurance because he had all this data about how people were taking care of their teeth, kind of thing. And and it's funny. My co-founder at DTC, I think it's now defunct. It was failed, but he tried to start a pet insurance business. And I wonder if there's, in the future, if you've got all this data on dogs' habits, their weight, their diets, it could be an interesting play.
No, it's an interesting idea. We are, through those screenings, we're gathering a lot of health data on dogs so we can understand what's the delta between, and it's also great. It's a great source of statistics and data for Ollie. So we can say on average, X amount of dogs, 59% of dogs are considered obese. Ollie dogs are only this percentage overweight. So we're kind of building those capabilities to be able to use that data to make really strong claims about our product offering.
What are your growth goals look like? I know you probably can't tell us specifically, but what are your big milestones, or what's the next big growth goal that you guys are aiming for?
Like I said, we're really looking for ways. We're going to continue to scale our paid channels in a really healthy way. So customer acquisition is continuing to be a huge focus for us, but we're really thinking about what are other ways that do not involve a traditional paid channel that we could see a large uptick in growth. So we're continuing to look into partnerships, continuing to invest in PR and SEO, like I mentioned.
Anything in events? There's probably lots of pet events out there.
So we've done some events, and I think we will continue to experiment in them, but it's been really hard to see an ROI on events. And I think that they're great. They are good for brand awareness, and they create great content. And I've attended a number of events and talking to people one-on-one. It's such a great experience, but it's really hard to take that and really expand it beyond the people that you interact with in that moment.
It reminds me of my friend who runs Outweigh with socks, and he got a lot of his start with his core audience of cyclists, essentially by donating product essentially to multiple events. So then the product was there. You didn't have to have, then you're also getting all these trials essentially of the product. And then you can say that the value of the product is what you'd sell it for, not always what it would cost. So it can be outsized.
Yeah, that's true. We've done some sampling. So we've done sampling events to try to get people to try the fresh food, because that can be a big hurdle, is that as a subscription company, people want to try it before they purchase it. So I don't think events are off the table, but we've tried to do some smaller events, and it feels like it's hard to scale it into a viable growth channel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have some personal experience with that. I just see dog on the street interviews though. There's the person on the street interviews, but dog on the street, taste test videos people could like that.
Yeah, we have been playing around a lot on TikTok with that type of content, and we've done some taste tests and things like that. But there's no shortage of really fun content ideas in the pet space.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the DTC podcast today, Nicole. If people want to follow your journey, where you suggest they keep up with you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that would probably be the best place. I try to post. This is a great reminder, but I'm trying to post more frequently about what Ollie is up to and what our team is doing. So I think that'd be the best place to go.
And if you're a D2C pet parent, you can go to myollie.com to get on the food train. Not in Canada yet, I don't think, right?
No, not in Canada.
No, just in the US. That's fine.
But
all good.
The contiguous US.
Nice. Cool. Thanks for coming on today. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was good to chat with you.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.